Hello everyone and welcome to the Introduction to LIMS 1 webinar. We're talking about the case study of Townsville Laboratory Service today. We have put you on mute so we won't have any background noise. There is an opportunity to ask questions at any point in time using the little questions tab at the bottom of your control panel. Another little tip for you to get the best experience today is to shut down all other web and other software applications, just making sure that you're not getting any delay in the video or the audio. Just a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. We have two speakers I'm going to introduce later on. We are firstly focusing on just an introduction on why people consider a LIMS, why you would possibly consider a LIMS. We're going to give you a really quick overview on what we do here at LIMS 1. We're showing you a quick introduction into LIMS 1, and then really the main focus of today is sharing a case study with you, and we're going to have Edgar from Townsville Laboratory Services take the lead on this. And afterwards there's plenty of time to ask questions, and both Mike Irwin from LIMS 1 and Edgar from Townsville Laboratory Services will be open for questions using the tab again in the chat or the questions area on your control panel. So if you have any questions in the meantime on technical requirements, please just use that tab as well. And I will just now hand over to Mike Irwin from LIMS 1, and he will give you a quick introduction to what we're all about.
Thank you, Anne. Welcome everyone who's joined us today. We've actually got a mix of old friends, existing LIMS 1 customers, people that have been talking to us in recent times, and glad to say some new names that we haven't got the pleasure of knowing yet. We hope there's something for everyone. Even our existing users may benefit from just seeing the product through someone else's eyes. In fact, our presenter Edgar discovered something he didn't know while he was practicing for today's event. So I hope you can all get something out of it. We've got a question here, why a LIMS? We're always interested in what you hope to achieve by installing a LIMS. Obviously, if we know what you're trying to achieve, that helps us develop the product for your needs. We've actually organised a quick online survey to see why you may have installed a LIMS or what you hope to achieve by doing so in the future. So Anne's about to press a button here and you're going to be presented with a survey. If you could just take a moment to pick the answer that most aligns with your goals or objectives. Give it a minute and we'll give you the feedback.
So as you can see, 71% of you chose the option of create more efficient processes as an option for why you would consider a LIMS, and 29% chose reduce time spent on multiple and manual data entry.
Thanks for that. Good to see everybody still engaged and listening, still with us. We actually got a slide here showing the results of a more extensive and formal survey we did with our customers about a year ago. And whilst the segments might be a bit more detailed and the names might have changed, it's actually a very similar sort of balance in the responses. So just a little bit about us. LIMS 1 is released in 1992, and LTech Australia is the company that developed it and supports it. We aim to incorporate ease and flexibility into all the products we develop, but we also try to carry this idea through to the services that we offer and the way we deliver. So we have a team of staff who are very familiar with laboratory operations, a wide range of experience in lab management, consulting and operations. And we work to help you achieve your specific objectives by tailoring the services, the product, our timing to suit your schedules, your needs and what you're trying to achieve in your operations. The product itself, it really comprised of a core system with a fully integrated set of modules that allow you to tailor the system to your needs. The modules can include things such as invoicing, instrument interfaces, a web portal, scheduling, labeling, just to name a few. The core system itself basically manages the lab process from sample registration through to reporting. So all aspects such as the testing parameters, the worksheets, workflow, report formats can be easily configured to suit your lab needs and processes. With that very quick overview, I'll now hand over to the guy you've really tuned in to hear. This is Edgar Salvador from the Townsville Laboratory Services. Edgar's been involved in the implementation of LIMS from the initial selection process through the implementation and now day-to-day operations. And Edgar, we really appreciate your participation and Townsville City Council for allowing you to do this. In the following presentation, I'd just like to point out we will be using real data from real samples on the Townsville system. So this is a live demonstration. Risky, I know, but hopefully it will prove that things work well. We have changed the names of customers and samples, obviously to protect confidentiality. But through the wonders of modern technology, I'm actually now going to hand over to Edgar, who's sitting at his desk in Townsville. Thanks, Edgar.
No worries. Good morning, everyone. Edgar Salvador here, and I'm the lab coordinator for the Townsville City Council Laboratory. The Townsville Lab Services is a business unit of the Townsville City Council. We are composed of a chemical laboratory and microbiological lab. We have about 10 staff in the lab, and we mostly analyze open waters, drinking water, wastewater, and a lot of environmental monitoring as well. Now, why did we need a LIMS system? In the last 10 years, we were using an Oracle-based LIMS system, a tailor-made LIMS system for us, and it had some issues or some holes that was causing a lot of issues in terms of efficient data management and also the financials. We wanted to create an efficient process and provide our customers with a better service. And you know, as you probably know, customers generally want the results very quickly without compromising quality. Now, having a LIMS where the quality of lab data is improved by spending less time in the data management and processing and providing customers with reports quickly would be a better way to see business efficiency within the lab. Now, a wish for me as a lab manager would be to see the business grow, because obviously we are a commercial laboratory, and therefore external revenue is a big thing for us as well. LIMS product requirements. When we were when I was writing the tender for the LIMS specs, my first step was to go through and map out an outline of what my current lab process was and find out where the issues were in the lab that were slowing down the turnaround times, you know, for reports. Now, when we identified where the issues were, we put up a set of specs together for the LIMS, and being a local government, we had to follow the proper tendering process. Now, in those specifications, we required that the tracking samples had to be easily found in a database. We should have the ability to search data in the LIMS system when we need to. Report generation should be easy and quick. In the past, we were manually typing reports using Word and converting them to PDF, and that was a very laborious and time-consuming part of the system. The lab staff also spent a lot of time gathering data, you know, from QC data, from instruments, and from result sheets, especially when we need to show them for NATA audits. So one part of the specs was for us to be able to get those QC data very quickly as well. Now, the biggest thing in the specs was to reduce the amount of manual data transfer. Okay. Why did we choose LIMS-1 amongst, we had about perhaps 5 or 6 submissions from different big LIMS providers. We chose LIMS-1 from LTEC because LIMS-1 met all the needs that we outlined in the specs. We have our own scoring system, and LIMS-1, the product from LTEC, was a runaway winner during the tendering process. The next thing that quickly came to our mind was we were dealing with staff or with people who actually, we believe, work in a laboratory, because they understood the depth of our requirements and what we wanted to achieve. We started with the implementation of LIMS-1 by setting up what we call a UAT, user acceptance testing. And during the UAT process, we found that it was easy for us to learn, and that the LIMS was flexible enough for our staff to adapt to after the training sessions. And transitioning from the old LIMS to the new LIMS was really very easy, because LIMS-1 is quite intuitive. We find that it follows the norms of Windows, as we know, of the normal or the more popular operating systems anyway. And also during the tendering process, we found that because I've been speaking with a lot of managers from councils on the eastern coast of Australia, and I found that 90% of labs, or probably, I don't know exactly how many, but most of the labs in the east coast are using LIMS-1. The implementation process for in our case was very intensive in terms of project management. We mapped the outline of our process. We looked at where the issues were. We defined a proper specs, and then we went into a tendering process. But the more important process was a more important part of the process, I think, was the UAT, where during the user acceptance testing, we were able to configure the LIMS on how we want it to work in our lab. The LIMS-1 is amazingly flexible in a way, because there are functionalities in the LIMS that, without even reading the manual, we were able to use as functionalities in our own way. And the UAT went from December, I think, to about March, and then we moved the system to production in April, and we went live in May. The movement from UAT into go live in May 19 was almost like it was so fluid, and overnight we went from an old LIMS to a new LIMS with no hassle at all. And after that, after the implementation and go live in May 19, the 19th of May, there was still a good follow-up and discussion with the staff from LTEC. It was quite amazing. Okay, we'll probably go into the live demo. Okay, as you can see, the screen is now showing us the LIMS-1 registration screen. On the registration screen, we found that it has a better and faster workflow, because you can see a lot more of the jobs registered. We are now going to look at perhaps one of the jobs that was registered. We can see the reference, you can see the description, the registration date. That is a big spread of information that quickly gives us all the information we need. Looking at 13-1666, we can now, it's because we've set up all the tests at the back end or in the configuration part of the LIMS, we now have tests that we can now allocate directly to samples and map them depending on the complexity of the requirement of the chain of custody form. By ticking the test against the samples, we are now able to generate workflow where, okay, this set of tests will need to be done for sample 1, and this set of tests will need to be done for sample 2. Jumping a bit fast onwards, this will also link into the accounts module, which we probably won't have enough time to discuss, but it will also link to the accounts module, which will create the invoice for this test as well. Now, we also have predefined job templates, which we set up on the back end of the configuration of the LIMS. Okay, so if you look on the sample type 80 actually is a preset job template, and this is where we link the job to sample points. For example, we have 5 sample points here, sample points number 620 to 624, which are connected to the houses of, well, which would be defined as houses, and they are also identified by the GPS readings, the depth, or whatever property we can link onto it. The sample points are quite powerful in a sense because a sample point clearly defines a physical sample once, and it's a unique representation of a physical sample point. Okay, so if we need to search for that specific sample point, we can actually use either the search parameters in the core LIMS or in another module called the DB query as well. But the sample point is a really good way of setting up recurring samples, for example, or samples that come very often or on a regular basis to the lab. The sampling points have allowed the lab to, allow the staff to easily enter samples when they're receiving them in the lab. This has definitely helped us in our workflow process. And for example, if a customer rings and wants to know a history of the specific sample, staff can quickly search. Now, the screen is now showing you how, because we define sample point, sample point 622, when you enter the pH, you can actually see the trending for the last 6 or 7 times that the results were entered for that sample point. So not only is it giving us an idea of the trending, but it's also giving an idea to the person entering the numbers whether that number is very much out of what is expected, or if there is a real deviation from the results, which will perhaps trigger us ringing the client and saying, hey, your pH is way out of the ordinary. You might want to have a look at your pH. In that sense, it is a very, very powerful way of letting the clients know if there was any problems. Improving data quality was also met with the ability of viewing a real-time trending pattern. I said that already, but also it gives the staff at our lab the peace of mind that the data entered is quality data. Okay, hence it also creates better workflow. We're now looking at another module which is called the AB, or the analytical batch. The analytical batch allows fast workflow for work groups in the lab. Okay, so when we create, for example, an analytical batch for ICP-MS, for metals anyway, it actually will mine all the current jobs that need metals to be tested, for. In the screen you can see that there's actually 3 jobs in the screen that needs to be done for metals analysis. In real life, we have more than that. We have about 200 samples in about 50 to 100 jobs that needs to be done for metals. The complexity of looking through the paperwork, if we did not have IB, the pain and the complexity of going through the paperwork to see which needs metals analysis is just unbelievable in the past. Now, one simple click of the IB generates a list, and that list becomes now the run list for example, for the metals by ICP-MS. No more forgotten samples, no more lost samples, and everything is listed as in the IB. The other good thing about the IB is it actually links to the control charts. for example, we're now opening an IB called inorganics. COD, for example, BOD and COD. When we raise an IB automatically generates a blank or an LCS control sample or an SRM. And because it's linked to the specific test, those QCs are actually mapped or recorded as a graph in the system. Those quality control charts, as all of us probably know, is a requirement of NATA. We need to see whether we are going above or below the upper control limit or the lower control limit. And it's easy for us now to see whether we are complying with our preset limits for each test. In this case, you can see that we have a breach of the upper control limit and a breach of the lower control limit. And that basically triggers us to reanalyze, either reanalyze the batch or have a look at what went wrong with the instrument. And that again is giving us a powerful capability to control the quality in the way we do things. And the good thing too is there's no more manual entry of QC data. Now, when a batch is created in IB, we can, for example, ICP-MS, the problem with entering data, well, we can enter data directly into the IB, but there's another module in LIMS that we actually are using for data entry, and it's called data pipe. Data pipe is a module that allows for the rapid and reliable data from instruments to be directly imported into the LIMS system. Okay, so in this case, we have about, say, 20 samples with 35 elements each. So there's about 640 data entry points. In the past, believe it or not, we had to manually enter each of the data by typing them onto the keyboard into the test. That was a nightmare. However, in this case, as you can see, Amanda started the processing of the 640 data points using the IB, and it will actually give us how long it took to transfer those data into the IB or into the system. It took 23,000 milliseconds, 23 seconds to import 640 data points. Not only is it quick, it is also not manual. And you guys can imagine how painful manual entry is, how painful data checking is. So data pipe reduces a lot of the improves the turnaround time, because we don't need to put resources into data entry. On the screen is showing you how those numbers were actually transferred from the data pipe into the job itself, 13-1665. Yeah, and because we have preset the reporting limits on the configuration part of the LIMS, where it was showing 0 or perhaps negative, it's now transferring them as less than the reporting limit. It saves the chemist time from checking results. And again, the reliability is just amazing, because it's quite, well, digital and that manual. Now, when those numbers are now entered into the jobs and the job results are completed, we all expect, well, in the past we had to check the results and manually type them into Word. Now, in this case, by configuring the report format in the LIMS, we are now able to generate reports with basically one click, F7 or F6. And what took us probably 20-25 minutes per report in the past is basically one click of the F6 button. And the reports are there, and we can also attach data quality reports if we need to. Because we can set templates up for different clients, we can vary the look of the reports depending on who our clients are. Now, also, well, as I've said before, not the turnaround time is affected by the data management, but also there's also a less time now in generating reports. one of the things that really helped us is we were finding that people were ringing us because we had a few, or not a few, but a fair bit of transcription errors, and we always say, we had a bit of a typo here and there, but in an efficient lab, really these are not acceptable, and that's how we found that the data pipe, the AB, and the core limbs has helped us a lot in reducing the errors and also in helping us with our turnaround times. So I don't think we have any more time to discuss the other modules, but there are a few other modules that we're using at the moment. The accounts module is quite amazing. The DB query is really, really good as well. If you're interested in our laboratory, you can see the website or the hyperlink on the page. It's townsville.qld.gov.au, and somewhere there you'll find the lab pages anyway. We're a commercial lab. We can offer you lab testing. And my email address is there as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edgar. That was fantastic. We have put up here a web link if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Edgar's lab. So just have a look at the website. We're just going to open now for questions, and we already got one, and we haven't ignored it. It's a question from Ron Fisher. Do you transfer instrument results electronically into LIMS 1? And I might just get Mike Irvin to comment on this.
Yes, hi Ron. Yes, the demonstration that Edgar did with data pipe is effectively taking data from any electronic format and transferring it into the LIMS 1 structure. So as long as your instrument can produce digital data, we can load that data and put it where it belongs.
Great, thank you, Mike. I would just ask all the many attendees we can see here to just post your questions into the questions tab at the bottom of your control. So you can just type it in and then either send it to us privately or send it to all. So I might just give it a minute and see if there's any other questions, either in regards to LIMS 1 in general, but also in regards to Edgar's case study.
Somebody's typed a question which just says ESDAT question mark. ESDAT is it's a system that is used for mapping data against geological data, for want of a better word, or for collating data, and it's a system that's been developed by an Australian company. And the quick answer is yes, we have the ability to export data in a variety of formats. Unlimited formats, basically, by developing specific scripts, and ESDAT is one that we have done in the past for a number of clients.
Great. We probably have time for 2 more questions, and there are many questions come in, so I'll just grab another one. Have you had any LIMS 1 being used in veterinary diagnostic pathology labs?
The short answer is no. I have familiarity with veterinary labs, so it would suit itself to that. We do have a human pathology lab in Tasmania attached to the public health system that uses it, and if someone wanted to follow up with that, we could go into the specifics of how it would suit a veterinary practice.
Great. Well, I might just grab one more question. A question from Stuart. Are you able to run worksheets of tests from LIMS to instrument?
Good question. The answer is yes. At the moment, you can send the run sheets, but it won't include some of the instrument calibration parameters. But we're working on that addition at the moment, so that the worksheet not only includes the samples that you're putting into the instrument run, but also any of the continuing calibration verification samples and the calibration standards as well, just to make a complete file.
Great. I think we've covered some of the main questions here. I'm sure there will be plenty more after this. What we would like to ask you to do, if you have additional questions, please reach out to us after this webinar, either via our website, or please contact Amanda, who's our product specialist, directly. She will also probably give you a call in the coming days and just gather a little bit of feedback about our first webinar and just making sure we've provided you with value. So just leaves us with saying thank you very much for attending, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thanks, Anne.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Edgar. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mike. No worries, mate. Bye-bye.